Right, without any further delay, let me hand over to our presenter, Nick Erasmus from Real Data Solutions. He is the technical director. He'll be taking us through their portfolio of softwares which are currently available. So sit back and enjoy. Over to you.
Good. Thanks, Matthew. Appreciate it, bud. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, thanks very much, Matthew, for setting this up and allowing us to run through our solutions and see how we can expand a little bit of knowledge with everybody that's joined the call. As Matthew said, look, we're going to give Q&A at the end, but I always say we're going to go through a lot of information a little bit. So if there's a burning question, just feel free to pop it in and just ask it right there and then, or alternatively just jot it down. And when we get to the Q&A session, please feel free to ask then. But my personal is I love interaction. So the more questions we have, the discussions we can have around the solutions, maybe you've got a challenge and we have a solution for you. Fire it away. Let's see if we can help you there a bit and guide you with what we have to offer. So what I'm going to do is I'm quickly just going to share my screen. And you should see my screen now. Matt, can you just confirm if my screen is shared? Can everyone see my screen? Yeah. Okay, great stuff. Cool. Right. So as Matthew so graciously introduced, my name is Nick. I'm the technical director for a company called Real Data Systems. So we're a
Nick,
IoT
we can't
smart.
see your thing. Your
the screen.
Eh?
Is it
yeah,
not
I can't see your screen. I'm sorry. I only see a lot of names.
Now you see the screen.
Now
I see the screen. Thank you.
Perfect. Yes, perfect. Right. So we're a IoT smart building solutions partner for a lot of companies across Africa, Middle East, Ireland and the UK. That's our footprint, basically. I'm just going to leave that on for a few seconds and just talk through it. So what we typically do, just to get a bit of perspective, is we completely involved within the document side of when we're talking about pre-construction, how we collaborate. You guys as designers using Archicad with the construction site, how do you collaborate with one another on documentation? Not just necessarily the BIM model or the three-dimensional model, but looking at the documentation that comes with the drawings, things like that. How we communicate seamlessly. How can I take comments that's placed on a document, a drawing, or anything like that back into your design software to make life a little bit easier and streamline those processes, because that's basically our digital transformation. We want to get away from the paper-based world and move more and more along the digital road, because we've got trackability, accountability when stuff is saved within a digital environment. So we're one of the pioneers for digital twin. You guys might have heard the buzzword now with the digital twin. So it's new ground. A lot of our clients are entering into this a lot more, because they start seeing the value for the actual asset down the line, how they can manage that facility or property or any building, basically, and what the value that comes from that digital twin. And it all starts with, again, if we're going into designers, we use Archicad. It starts with you guys when you're authoring and building that three-dimensional model, and all the information you put into that, we start utilizing those parameters within that three-dimensional model, and all the assets that go into that, we utilize that to start tracking maintenance. And again, I will talk about the occupancy and asset management in a little bit. So that's basically, in a very quick nutshell, who we are. We specialize in smart buildings and IoT implementations. So the first product that I want to talk to you that we bring to market, or we've brought to market for a number of years now, actually, for Africa specifically, is Bluebeam. Bluebeam Review. Some of you might have heard of it. If you are fortunate enough to actually own it already, great. You will, by all means, praise it, because it is a game changer when it comes to working with the PDF file format, right? So most of you that don't own Bluebeam either use Adobe or one of those platforms that's specifically geared for a general office administrative PDF software, where Bluebeam is specialized. Bluebeam was developed specifically with the construction industry in mind. So it's tailored around everything you need from a design perspective straight through till we get to site. So you can see the life cycle there from design reviews that gets taken or done to quantity takeoff. So we've got a lot of QS clients that actually use Bluebeam to do their quantification and their takeoffs, which they then process downstream to do their BOQs and all of that information for downstream processing. Project setup. It's project planning and things like that can be done with it, and then drawing management. Now, drawing management comes with a double-edged sword, so it's got its own CDE or common data environment within it, but we typically integrate Bluebeam seamlessly with SharePoint. Which then what we call turbocharges the whole process of drawing management or document management for that single source of truth. So whatever you do within your SharePoint environment, because we're SharePoint specialists, is we build workflows in SharePoint, and Bluebeam basically sits on top of it and drives the document through its selective stages. It can be automated, notifications can be sent out to whoever needs to sign off a document or a contract or whatever downstream without having that silo effect of working individually. You can actually incorporate a collaborative environment. So when everybody signed, it will actually notify you that the document is now signed, and we can move on to that. So it's all about efficiency. It's all about collaborating, making the process a little bit faster. Then obviously you've got your RFI management. So again, you can do your RFIs within Bluebeam, your snagging, all of that type of stuff. You'll see they call it punch still, it's the Americans, but snagging. So again, we're going to talk about the integration specifically for you guys as Archicad users. What Bluebeam really turbocharged with you, you're very lucky because Archicad is part of the Nemetschek group as well. And Bluebeam is as part of the Nemetschek group, so they work hand in hand to basically integrate the two solutions seamlessly, so that when you are doing your RFIs, your snagging on your sheets that you've done, you can basically bring them back bi-directionally into Bluebeam and back into Archicad. I'll talk a little bit about it on the next slide. And then the big thing for us is when we're talking about project handover. That's when most of you guys as designers and engineers stop. And then we take over from there for the project handover, because then it becomes the real world asset. Then it becomes the client, what's my usages? How do I optimize this building a little bit better for tenant purposes? How do we make it better for our people that's in it? We're very people-centric driven. So you want to create an environment within a building that's first of all safe and comfortable for any staff that is in there. That's our biggest thing, is to create an environment that they feel safe and can work without having to worry about bad airflow or just being not comfortable. So as I mentioned, from an Archicad point of view, the biggest one for you guys are the Bluebeam Connect. I'm not going to go into it. There's a whole video actually on YouTube that'll take you through the whole workflow. I don't want to spend too much time on this. We only got an hour, so time is a little bit of a story. But if you scan that QR code, it will take you to that YouTube channel, and you can watch that video and see how seamlessly it works bi-directionally. So from your Archicad, you create your sheets, your sets, you then publish them basically, and when they do markups digitally, right, you can bring them back into Archicad and overlay them or underlay them, however you want to say, in Archicad, and then they become actually intelligent. So they become actionable tasks or actionable entities within Archicad, especially for your snagging maybe or your RFIs. They become actionable, and you can start tracking them within your Archicad environment, which is incredibly powerful. It's very efficient. It saves a lot of time when it comes to that workflow. So I really would encourage you to go and have a look at it. At the end, I will leave my information. If you want to trial it, you let us know. I'll get one of my tech guys to actually set up a trial for you, and you can trial it out. And you can see how it actually works and how efficiently you can work bi-directionally from your design software straight through to your PDF review site. So it's all about collaboration. Like Bluebeam Studio is one of the best platforms out there. I always say you need at least one license in every design office. because studio allows us to invite people that's not even in our organization into a session where we can collaborate together. These days after COVID, where we don't necessarily need to sit in boardrooms anymore, meeting rooms anymore, we work remotely across the world. My guys, our one office is here in South Africa. We've got an office in Saudi Arabia, in Dubai, London, and in Dublin, in Ireland. But my guys work on our PDFs actually when we are dealing with some client stuff, and even contracts and stuff. We use it in our collaborative environment so they can log in from anywhere as long as they've got a internet connection and they have Bluebeam. They can log in. The nice thing about this is if you as an architectural firm own Bluebeam, and let's say your interiors or one of your subcontractors don't own Bluebeam as a license, it's not a problem. They can actually utilize their free version or the trial version, and they can then come into your studio session. And for that period that you're collaborating in an environment, they will have, I won't say full functionality, but they will have about 90% functionality. Once that session is closed, they go back to a free viewer, and you have all the required information and data that you need to move on to the next steps. So it's all about that collaboration to not limit you as a designer or as a client that owns the software. So it makes it a little bit more efficient. So again, anything Bluebeam related, same thing. I'll give you our information after this. Pop us a line. We can set up demos, and we can take this into really, really in depth and see what your requirements are from a document point of view, how you want to collaborate on the drawings and the PDFs and that. Even 3D. So Bluebeam has got what's called a 3D PDF. So you can have a fully fledged 3-dimensional model within a PDF environment and share it with anybody. Bluebeam actually opens up IFC files from its native source, so you don't even have to convert them to 3D PDFs. Bluebeam does it automatically. And you can have a full 3-dimensional PDF, basically, of your property or whatever you basically are building or designing or whatever. So that's Bluebeam. From Bluebeam, right? So Bluebeam, as I mentioned, is that's our call it pre-construction solution for collaboration. So once the project handover takes place, we move into a completely new realm, because now we're dealing with obviously the asset itself. Be it a hospital, be it an office building, be it a residential block. These properties or these assets need to be managed, and maintenance needs to be done with it. So when we are talking about our solutions, we've got 3 platforms basically when it comes to that. So we've got Spacewell Workplace, which is focused more along the lines of the experience for the person that is, let's say, in an office space. When you get to an office, what is your experience in there? Do you know where you're sitting, hot desking environment, we have floor plan management. So even from a call it a space planning point of view, that's where our analytics start taking over, and we start moving a little bit further into those realms. To advise what areas within that building is being utilized. What is the building being occupied, in certain areas, things like that. Then we move over into the facility side, which is the asset side. So everything within a building, be it a chair, a computer, a car that's a site car or whatever, is an asset for the company. So we track all of those assets, be it the maintenance. If we have a building that needs facilities management, it incorporates that from short-term to long-term. Compliance is quite a big thing because what the system does, which sets it apart from a lot of the other integrated workplace management solutions on the market, is it runs AI. So we can preload compliance requirements. And what the system will do, it will compare it continuously to say that the building is compliant or non-compliant. So any regulations and things like that. If I take one of our big clients in Manchester, for instance, the housing association, they manage about 7,500 residential houses for their different boroughs, and they use Bluebeam's compliance. So every quarter, they have to submit certain regulations to the local councils to ensure that they get funding for the next quarter, to make sure that their housing facilities are up to standard. So it's safe and a healthy place for their people to live. So what the system does by the 25th of each quarter, the last month of each quarter, it runs an automatic compliance check on these properties to say, have you checked the fire extinguishers for instance? Has there been any anomalies for certain properties? Now, when I talk about anomalies, we're moving into the energy field, where was the boiler maybe running hot, or wasn't it working properly? Because we can pick up on these anomalies within the energy module, because it's all about the analytics of the equipment that's in the facility. So those type of things then come to life. Let's say if we had breakages, what breakages were they? Were they corrected? Were they fixed correctly? Can we see if that's now working? So under compliance, it'll tell you, we fixed this and it's now compliant, and show evidence that it is compliant with it. So assets is a very, very big part of our business, especially on the future of the actual asset itself. So going back to our first one on the workplace. So we do space and floor plan management. So again, you as, maybe not you as per se a designer, but as a client or a tenant even. So if you're renting a property within a building, this is also quite good for you, because what we do is we put our sensors in and we give you the data and analytics to show you what areas in that office space is actually being utilized. For instance, I'll show you now in the real model or the real platform how that looks. So we do desk and room booking, parking reservations. We have apps and kiosks on there. So that's our sensors, our head count and air quality sensors. So we know what the air quality is. We know how many people are in a certain area. We know how many people are in a building. If we go further, we do sound monitoring, which we're doing with the CSIR at the moment with their project. There's a whole bunch of additional data points that we can put in and gather that data. We do visitors management. So if you do have a little when someone comes to your offices, we manage that with a little printer and all of that type of stuff, but that's the low easy access stuff, or the easy stuff. The biggest thing is your space and analytical simulator. So downstream, what it will do is it'll start providing you with analytics, which we can then use in an AI environment to give you the optimal environment for you. So the more data we gather over the period, the AI system will start recommending, and it compares it to millions of buildings that's similar setup across the world, and it will start giving you a good idea of space utilization, and it'll start putting simulations together to say that these areas are your more focused areas and these areas are not so important. So maybe scale down on those and up other ones because there's more requirements for that environment. Service and catering. So again, if you have a meeting in a boardroom, you can order your teas and your biscuits and your coffees and everything through the application. So it becomes a completely integrated workplace solution. Find My Colleague is a really powerful tool. We can have it on real time, or we can have it just as a booking system. So most of our clients opt out of the real time because we don't tracking you throughout the building. We don't want to know exactly where you are within the building. But when you book let's say you've got a hot desk and you want to book it close to team members because you're working on the same project, it's nice to see where they're sitting. Then you can go and book close to them and you can then collaborate a little bit easier on that. Then our service requests comes purely around how you log a breakage within a space. Let's say I've spilled coffee and the cleaners need to come clean it. You can take a photo, log it to a ticket, and it goes to maintenance, and maintenance comes and sorts it out. If you have a toilet that's clogged, you take a photo of it, or you just log it and say, listen, the toilet's clogged or the sink is not working, and you take a photo and you log a support ticket, and it goes to maintenance to get it sorted. And that then crosses over into assets. So again, workplace order management. So from that, let's say vanity or hand wash basin that's not working, a work order gets created, and then somebody has to come out to come fix it. So asset management, as I mentioned, it can be from anything from desks to cars to anything that the company owns. Can get tracked through the system. And again, if there's maintenance that's involved with those things, it logs it automatically in the back end, and we can set it up in terms of that. Long-term planning for maintenance, it's one of the big ones, when the building needs to be painted, a lot of the big high-rise buildings, when they need to be washing windows, all of those things are long-term maintenance in it. As I said, compliance is incredibly important. Another nice feature about specifically Spacewell's assets under compliance is we can create our own compliance documentation. So if you feel you want to track a compliance within your team or within the project or whatever, you can set up your own compliance, and it will keep measuring against those factors that needs to be either uploaded via the workflow process, or certain things that need to be pre-approved. So you can write your own compliance and just load it into the system, and it will then run it against your requirements that's there. So not so much for you guys unless we have an owner developer here for the capital project management. So it takes all of your buildings, and we can start comparing viability, feasibility across your whole property portfolio and all your different buildings that's there to see, when what needs to be maintained, and even, it links into financial databases and backends as well. So you can actually have a one-stop shop within the platform, and it'll give you all the metrics and data that you require to properly manage your whole portfolio of properties. Sorry, the condition and assessments. So if you need to do assessments or inspections on the property, like I mentioned, checking fire extinguishers is always the easy one to go to, but you can do it via a checklist or an inspection sheet, and that gets logged to say that we're not compliant, or yes, these things are compliant. So it all piggybacks on that compliancy, and to make sure that the building is in good health and that it passes all the regulations. Now, Spacewell Energy is one of our new modules. It used to be what's called Dexma back in the day, but over the last 2 years, energy has become quite an important part of our business, because everybody's getting a little bit more energy conscious. Everybody is really looking towards alternative energy sources, because across the globe energy is expensive, and we want to see where we can cut down on it. Now, the biggest thing is our carbon drive. How can we get to carbon zero, and how can we start offsetting proper energy usage against our carbon roadmap, or our carbon footprint roadmap for the next, let's say, 5 years or 3 years. I know most have 2030 as the carbon zero goal. I know Dubai and even Saudi have those from a regional perspective. So there's definitely a method of tracking that carbon information across the board, and working out how much energy are you actually using within the building. So we've got 3 main ones. We analyze, then we detect, and then we optimize. So those are 3 rules or 3 pillars we use. So for the first one, our analyze, we don't necessarily need smart sensors for those yet. We can use old utility bills and things like that to get the baseline set up. Then we analyze. So if there's a requirement where sensors need to be put in, or extra meters need to be integrated, we can integrate existing sensors or meters into the system, and then we let the magic happen, because now we start studying the data that's coming in. So again, we have a very strong AI system that regulates and checks for anomalies, and what it will do, it'll start giving you the main anomalies, so we can set up filters. So if an anomaly is critical, we can go and address it right away, and that will then start giving us an indication of where your heavy energy users are, and start optimizing those, seeing, well, if we, again, easy one to do, just swapping out, maybe globes for a lower wattage, for instance. Again, it's an easy one to fix in that sense. But when we're talking about HVAC systems, in Europe specifically, we just had a client now where the air conditioning units, or the heating units, the central heating, just pumps constant air into these meeting rooms, and no one's even in them. So we've used our smart IoT sensors to now go and see if a room is occupied. If a room's not occupied, and the AC unit or the heating is pumping 35 degrees, or 30 degrees heat in that room, it'll gradually start slowing that process down and take it into a comfort level that's acceptable. Not that it doesn't drop it to 0 again, because then the next crowd that comes in needs to basically double time it for that hour, and before the room's even hot, they'll leave. So we bring it down to a comfort level, and from there, then they can adjust the temperature a little bit. So it's a lot more eco-friendly when it comes to the energy usage for those HVAC units or systems that they have. All right, so I'm going to quickly show you here, and bear in mind when I show you this, this is the Spacewell platform. This information I have to share with you at the moment, this is live. So what you're seeing on the screen here is in real time. So this is a client of ours actually in Dublin, and this is their head office at the moment. So what you're seeing from the screen at the moment is they've got a few, so this area here is the cafe or the canteen. Currently there's 17 people in the cafe, canteen area. We've got one person currently in that little medium boardroom. And you can see there's the two reception ladies. So that tells us there's two people currently sitting in the reception area. We have our IT department on this side, so we can clearly see, you know, who there is. So if I go to occupancy, you'll see that it just gives me, you know, that there's people, the areas are being occupied, as you can see by red and those systems. So if I go to reservations, so this is a hot desk environment as well. So you'll see that now everywhere there's red, where there's red, there's a person sitting there, but you see there's an orange one that's there. Now, what that means is someone's reserved it, but they haven't sat down there yet. So it hasn't been activated yet, our sensor there. So what typically will happen is it'll run an hour and a half over your reservation time, and then it will come available again for somebody else to reserve. So you'll see it says big 88 here. So you can see that that's the time counter off. So currently this is available. So if I want to book this, I can literally just click on that and I can go and create a reservation very quickly, you know, from my time. So you can see there the next meeting is at 3. So I can do from 1:30 to, and I can go and confirm my reservation. I can give him a title, the date, time, remarks if you want, and then you can book this room basically and reserve it. So this is also linked to your Outlook calendars. So anything you do is all integrated, single environment. It links back to your Outlook. You'll get notifications if you invite your people. It'll link back, so everybody knows, you know, that we have a meeting in that small meeting room that's there. Let's look if we find something interesting here. I like to go to the executive floor because normally there's like almost nothing happening. So you can see a lot of reservations currently unavailable, but no one's there. Now I can tell you these main offices here, these are the big bosses, and they are always occupied by a number of people. At the moment, you can see there's not really people reserved for people. But what I want to show you here is the real time or the people not tracking but team, where you can see. So if you see now, again, remember what I said, this is not live. We're not tracking these people in the building. All right. It's not to say that, for instance, you know, Rebecca is sitting there at the moment on that chair. It's just she's booked it. So if you see Rebecca there and you know you're going to work with her, you can either book maybe if there's a seat available next to her or across from her. Just makes it easier for the team to work together and see where the team members are. So currently, you know, we look at our utilization factor. So in that meeting room there, and I can tell you that large meeting room is quite a popular little one out here. So there's currently 6 people in that room. We've got one currently in the family office there, and the meeting room, family meeting room there. There's 2 people currently in this office, and you can see 111 that's there. So no one in the big meeting room that's there. And I want to talk about the analytics in a second. So that's basically, in a nutshell, utilization versus your occupancy. All right. So when we're talking about utilization and occupancy, it's important to distinguish between the two, because a building can be occupied, which is great, but the utilization can be bad. In terms of putting it in a little bit of an easier concept, is if we look at this boardroom that's here. So this boardroom can be occupied 4, 5, 6 times, you know, or 20 times a week. That's fine. Oh, it's occupied. It's not necessarily the best, because if one person is sitting in this meeting or boardroom, you know, it'll say it's occupied, but is it really being utilized correctly? So do we need such a big space? Do we need to heat up such a big space? Do we need to cool down such a big space? So you want to optimize your layout for the purposes of the people that's in your building. So if this boardroom, let's say, is being used 20 times a week by 1 or 2 people, it's not good. The utilization is bad. So instead of having one massive meeting room or boardroom, maybe split it into 3 smaller breakout rooms that is more popular with the people, and then the utilization will get better for your area or your space that's there. And that is what the data that we provide our clients with, is the usage and utilization of these spaces. So when we go and look at our actual analytics, you will see that currently we are on City West, which is the building. All right, we're monitoring 3 floors, which is there 3 floors across. We've got 238 workspaces within it and 23 collaboration spaces. All right, so currently the collaboration space occupancy, as you can see, is 62%, which is really good for what their needs are. So we've done a cross analysis with them. We sat down, what do you want out of your building? And they want to improve collaboration with their teams. So for us to hit a 62% is really good. It shows that our breakout areas, our collaborative environments are being used extensively, which is really, really good. So when we're looking at the figures between 62% and 43% for workspace, that is basically 43 is good, but it will be lower. Why? Because people use the collab spaces a lot more than when they're sitting at their desks individually, which is what they want as the client. They want interaction. They want to have that utilization between their different staff. That's there. So again, we can run through occupancy, and you can see all the analytics that we have throughout the different periods. I can go and let's say I'm just going to choose a floor here. Let's go with ground floor. So here we can see the utilization factor. That meeting room is being used 58%, 64, 60%. So anything over that period, obviously the canteen area is going to be very popular. Their gym even, 44%, it's questionable. Are people using the gym really to its main capabilities? If not, we can see some of the desks, that desk, 30%. Keeping in mind that some of these desks are actually fixed desks. They can't be booked. I know actually the gentleman that sits at this desk, he's never in the office because he's a project architect. So that's why it's very low. But then I know this lady that sits here, she's one of the design leads and she's always in the office. So knowing the people in the space, I know exactly why that would be 64% and versus that 30% that's there. But keeping in mind what we're monitoring in here is the meeting rooms. So the workshop areas, everything's being utilized, which is great. So it's really good occupancy information that we're getting out of here, and we can then start comparing occupancy with utilization. Remember, that is incredibly important to have those 2 analytics running side by side. All right. So we get a lot of metrics from the utilization, from the usage, and those type of things. Further to that, air quality, as I mentioned, gets added into it. So we'll know what the air quality is per room. Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it comfortable? What's the CO2 levels in there? We can even do the lux levels per space if you really want to know, what the brightness of the light is in those places. So that's where the IoT and the sensors really start becoming powerful, and we can then provide the data and the analytics through to make decisive decisions about the space planning and space design that's there. Another, taking one of our other clients, for instance, here, this is the fixed system. We do temporary systems like that run for maybe between 4 to 6 months. So let's say the client's trying or is thinking of doing a space planning exercise. We monitor that floor for them for 4 to 6 months. We take the data, we lay it out to the powers that be, and we tell them these are the spaces that you being utilized. This is the traffic flow. This is how many people are in your offices at any given time. And you can then start space planning or designing your office environment around that, or any environment, to be honest with you. Even in the hospitality industry, we know, like for instance, hotel rooms, when a hotel room's occupied, when a hotel room's not occupied, instead of having the cleaning staff riding the lifts up and down and knocking on doors to see if someone's there. They just look at our little map here, and we can actually see what rooms have got people in them currently and what rooms don't. So you don't bother going there now and riding electricity up and down and using the lift too many times, because a lift, funny enough, has got two sides to it. It's got maintenance and it's got energy use. So the less you travel up and down in the lift, for instance, and we've done a little bit of a study around it, you'll be surprised how much energy you save. So, you know, if you have any hotel clients out there, or you want to, let's talk. We're doing some cool stuff with the hotel chains around occupancy and energy and utilization factors. All right. Then lastly, before we jump over to Q&A, I want to quickly find my slides. Let's just start it from here again. Okay, is when we start talking about now the asset further, we're going into the digital twin environment. So basically what we use D-Twin. So D-Twin is one of the newest advanced technologies for digital twins on the market. It's incredibly powerful because it keeps everything in one system. We don't need any other systems really, apart from our Spacewell maintenance management system that seamlessly again integrates into our D-Twin environment. So what happens on the one side happens on the other side. So what we want to get out of our digital twin is exactly that. What's a digital twin? It's a digital copy of the real world asset. All right. And it needs to run and give us exactly the analytics as if you were standing in that building at any given time. So keeping in mind, you know, if we're looking at your digital twin environment, reality capture. So we capture the current state, be it with photogrammetry or with point clouds. We then build up that model, or overlay it with a three-dimensional model, link and harmonize your data, and connect any IoT sensors to that system so that we then get real-time data out of that building. So we can then go and inspect and get data from the building that's there. Your biggest thing there, what we want to do is then manage, because my saying is you cannot manage what you can't measure. So if you can't measure anything, you can't manage it. You won't know what's happening. So any of the sensors that's in the building gives us the analytics that we need to manage the building, to give us data, to give us that information so we can then start optimizing it or making the building better and start optimizing the environment that's there. This is just a quick view of how the platform works, just to give you an idea how easy it is to use it. So we do our point cloud overlay. So if you do have point clouds, you can bring it. We bring in the Google Earth environment so you can place it geographically correctly. 3D world, just to give a nice presentation around it. Then we go into the building itself. You can navigate around. There's ways to set transparency, like you can see through the point cloud. All information, so all the BIM data gets put through, be it your IFC or any information. This is just the photos that's there, that's overlaid, so we can see what it looks like in the middle. Now, I'm just going to pause it here for a second. So this is where our sensor data comes into play. So similar like we showed you there in a Spacewell, we have the ability within our digital twin. So any space within our digital twin, we have sensors. So we know occupancy. So we know currently who's occupying that space. To some extent, with our more advanced sensors, I can actually tell you where they are within that room at that given time. So if they're standing in a corner or whatever, I can tell you that, you know, someone is standing in that corner. All right. Like our retail environment, we can tell you exactly where people are within that retail store, what products are in front of them, things like that. And you can have a digital twin, remember, the three-dimensional environment, to actually see it geographically using, let's say, heat maps for a low-lying entry into smart analytics to tell the retail vendor, you know, a product on, you know, why are people maybe not going to a certain area within your store, things like that. So we can give it. So the data we have here from temperature, you know, like your occupancy, you can see there, we can say there's 2, 3, 5 people in there, so on. So all of our sensor information gets pulled through the digital twin as well. So there you can see we can have all of the information, be it, you know, currently, you know, I won't say that's accurate because there's not 12 people currently in this room, but it gives you an idea. I'll show you a live one in a minute, again, of that same building. So we can, there's the analytics side where we can gather all the analytics and show that, again, usage, electricity is very important to us. So we know exactly what areas, what rooms are using more or less electricity. Then from a maintenance point of view, you can tag a item. So I can go as a facilities inspector. I can go and walk through my digital twin, click on things, add tags to it, and then open job cards or add job queues to those elements that need to be fixed. That gets pulled through to Spacewell Assets, which then activates the process to either call a maintenance person or whatever. So you can do it all via your digital twin. Oopsie. You can do it all via your digital twin. Oh, that was the last one. So I'm going to show you quickly. Let's jump to that one. So this is basically the environment. So this is that same building I showed you there from our client in Ireland. Again, this is real time. This is just how they've modeled there with all the assets within their digital twin. So everything is categorized, cataloged. We know exactly what it is. So if I just go to devices to show you, you'll see that it's going to populate, hopefully, in a few seconds. I am on this call. There we go. So you see the current temperature in the environment is 22 degrees. If we go to first floor sensor 8, you'll see that the CO2 is currently incredibly high, or it's going up. So it's flagging it for me orange. So it's not at an adequate environment. So I'm not going to jump in through. I'm going to show you. I did a few screenshots here, and I want to show you that room specifically. Around, and it was sensor 8. So that room, remember I showed you that there's that meeting room. So currently there's a lot of people in that meeting room. So you can see that the sensor 8 is picking up that if I can just move it, that CO2 is going up because there's like a lot of people in that room and there's not enough airflow currently going through it. You can see that the air quality is really going down. So it means that they actually need to either open up a window, or they need to, open the door, or they just need to get a bit of fresh air into that space. That's basically there. So that's where the occupancy or the sensor information now starts becoming quite relevant when we are starting to talk about the analytics. Same thing with the occupancy. So here's our energy devices. So we know, like for instance, the lighting currently, what it's utilizing, the energy factors within the building. Again, this is real time. It's not, when I talk real time, it's not per second, just the FYI. We connected, and we're not using our own sensors for this specifically. They opted to use their BMS system. So it's easy for us. We just pushing the data from their BMS system. So their BMS system does it. I think it's either every 10 or 15 minutes. It will populate the energy, and I'm talking just energy. Air quality is real time. The energy is just every 15 minutes, I think, if I remember correctly, what we use here. So here we have, again, this is our TrackNet with our desks. So this will tell you if something's occupied or not occupied. So again, we can see that desk that's basically there. So if we go to, let's go to, for instance, let's go look at one of the collab desks. Okay, we can't do that. Let's go to, I'm just going to see if I can go down to where the guys are sitting. Let's go there. I want to actually get one that's occupied. Yes, let's go data centers and life science. So what it's just going to do is going to take us to that specific desk that's there. And there's no occupancy data currently available for that. So it's just populating. Another thing just to mention is that this is streaming the information. So just bear in mind, this is a web browser with no software installed on your device. The only software that we install on your device is basically your Bluebeam software. So you can see currently it says true. So someone is occupying that space or that desk. It's linked to that specific desk. I'm going to see if I can go, whoopsie, there I clicked on it. If I can go to one of the other bubbles. It's in a space to give you a bit more information around that. Let's go back to the sensor one. I want to get a bigger room. Let's go into sensor. We'll just take that sensor for argument's sake. Okay. Let it just populate a little bit. There we go. That's it. I always say live demoing and showing stuff live is always the biggest stress because you never know when it's not going to work. So there you can see that one space there. So currently the temperature is 22.5. You've got a humidity of 47. Your CO2 is 633, but you can see the air quality is not great. So again, there's not enough airflow that's going through that room. So eventually you will actually see your CO2 starting to become a problem because the air gets stale. It's not healthy. And that now it's not to say it will, but it's actionable environment. So if it is something like it can actually trigger a sensor notification to one of the senior staff members and say, listen, go open up a window, or just, hey guys, come on, just cool the room down a little bit because you guys are going to fall asleep here, because the information or the data is telling us that there's not enough flow that's coming through this room. Or it could be that there's something wrong with the HVAC system. So it's all of these things that gives us the power within the digital twin environment to really know where we're dealing with. All right. Conscious about the time, almost done. Any questions?
Nick, there was a question on the chat.
Okay.
Like me to read it to you?
Yeah, read it out for me, please, man.
All right, so it's from Lenano. They might have missed it, but
Okay.
how is the occupancy of in the offices mapped? Are the sensors at the chairs, or how does that work?
Right. So we use two options. We have an under desk sensor option, and then we have what's called a head count sensor option that we split into multi-zones. So it all depends on the client's requirements. So for, again, under desk always works. We've got what's called a thermo sensor, so it doesn't use the old PIR movement really anymore. It actually picks up heat. So if you're sitting in front of it, it picks up your leg heat or your heat from you, and that gives us a lot less false truths. And like I said, our other option that we have is our head count sensor that we set up zones, and that triggers basically a head that's sitting within that environment. So it uses AI. It doesn't identify you, just bear in mind. Our high-end sensors can do facial recognition, but that's more for our security stuff. But our occupancy sensors and that don't do facial or any recognition. It just knows basically that there's a person there, using the AI that's there. But yeah, it all depends on, like I said, if it's a hot desk environment like we have there, we typically put an under desk in because it's a per desk environment, where if we are doing larger offices, we cover more space with one sensor. It's all about cost factors as well that's there. Okay. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Nick. Is there anybody else that has a question? We've got 5 minutes left. Go for it, Celeste.
Yes. No, it's interesting, but it's really frightening to me. I work in a small one-person office. The idea that someone traces me right through the building and call me in by Friday and ask, why did you spend 35 minutes in the toilet this week? And go to the toilet that often.
Yes.
This is all really possible with this technology, and it's horrible to me.
Right. So you'll be surprised. We get that a lot. Right. This is 100%, and we've sat with staff within buildings. It is not there to police any staff. It's got nothing to do with how much time you're spending in the bathroom. It's got nothing to do how much time you're spending cigarette breaks. It's not there to really hammer down staff and, oh, why aren't you at your desk? You're supposed to be working. That's the wrong mentality when it comes to IoT systems. What we're doing is purely optimizing spaces. We are giving enough information so that the space for you as an individual working in that area is more comfortable, and is healthy. Again, if we go back to COVID days, your air quality these days, and this is what we're doing with the CSRR at the moment that they're building, is that air quality. We want to test exactly when an area is overpopulated or over staffed, the risk in airflow, the risk in picking up diseases, those type of analytics is what we're doing with our air quality. So absolutely, it is something that pops up all the time, even my personal information and stuff like that. Completely nothing along those lines. It's not supposed to be used like that. We have a sensor, just an FYI. Sorry?
The design, we all know the design, the product actually makes it possible to do it. And if something is possible, I can guarantee it will be used like that.
Remember, it doesn't know you as an individual is in the bathroom. Keeping that in mind, it knows someone's there. It doesn't know it's you. That's the thing. It's got nothing to you personally. You understand? We can't know. Well, Sarah's sitting now currently for the last 20 minutes in the bathroom. You know what I mean? That's not how it works. It knows that somebody is there at the moment. And again, if I go further to a maintenance point of view, our bathroom sensors actually just picks up numbers. So by let's say the 50th person that's used that bathroom for the day, it triggers a call to the maintenance team to go clean up the bathroom a little bit. So that, again, if there's 50 people that's gone through the bathroom, maybe you just going to need to mop a bit and just clean the basins and the toilets a little bit. So it's all about hygiene again. So no, there's no personal information that gets shared with these systems. So we won't know it's you. So if your bosses or the powers that be want to use it for that, why? It's a very expensive system, and you're not going to really do that for what it is. It's a business solution optimization tool. It's not to police your staff. There's a lot cheaper ways to do it than utilizing these sensors and IoT devices. Okay.
Zane, go for it. Unmute yourself.
But while we wait, look, at any given time, there's our info email. Feel free to give us a call. If you send it to info, just say, hey, Nick, you were in the session on Thursday. I would like to know a little bit more about Bluebeam. I would like to know a little bit more about Spacewell. I would like to know a little bit more about D-Twin. We can have a conversation. That's the thing. We like talking to people. It's fun. Let's see what projects you have. Let's see how we can work together. It's all of these things. It's new technology that's coming. It's I would say the scary thing is how we put things together is more along the lines of the scary part. But yeah, give us a call. Let us know.
Can I make another comment?
Yes, please.
The idea that when I go to the shop measure how long I spent in one aisle versus other aisle is also really disgusting to me.
Yes. So I can tell you even further than that. I know exactly how full your trolley is, and I know how long you've been queuing, and I know where you've been in that store. So from a retail point of view, they're one of our biggest clients, because obviously we want to know or provide the retailer with all the most information to optimize the shopping experience. So again, like I mentioned, if there's an area within a store where you can see from the analytics that nobody goes to, the first thing is what product's there. So is it a product that's just not attracting people's attention, or is it a problem for people to get there? Is it too far away, or what it is? And then we can start analyzing and optimizing that store layout to optimize the shopping experience. So from sensor wise, you can go as far as I can tell you if you're male or female. When we start talking really high-end sensors within the retail industry, those sensors are incredibly expensive. We have never put a sensor like that in an office environment, or even taking one of our hospitals even. It's not viable. But from a retail point of view, to build a demograph about how many male, how many females are really shopping in your stores, and that it's for you. You know, it's not really intrusive because again, we don't know who you are as a person, but for the store owners and the retail industry, it's valuable to know what demograph is doing. I can add to that. You know, we do healthcare assisted living facilities in Ireland. And then a good example of how we do in the medical industry and assisted living facilities is we monitor the doors for dementia patients and Alzheimer patients. So what happens is they forget to close their windows and doors in the evenings. And we've automated their central heating system because they don't switch it on all the time, but they forget. So it's been so bad in some areas in Europe where the people actually freeze to death in their little units because all the doors are open and no heating's going, and they won't go to bed. So we monitor all their doors and windows at a certain time in the evening. If that door is still open, they do a healthcare check on them from the nurses station. Further to that, we do continuous, we call it monitoring life throughout the little unit. So if a person's in one location for too long, again, it triggers an alarm at the nurses station to do a welfare check on them. You know, if they've fallen or anything like that. So, you know, there's like the retail side that you feel, oh, they know exactly what aisle I'm in, but then we have the complete opposite where, you know, it's literally life or death environments where these sensors and IoT is so valuable.
Nick, I saw Zane's message on the chat.
Okay.
I'm just going to read it out to you.
Cool.
Apart from Bluebeam, how do these other software products interface with Archicad?
So from an Archicad point of view, there's not really an integration because from, you know, your Archicad is your authoring tool. That's your BIM tool to build a 3-dimensional model. So what we will do is take your model and we bring that information into, like, for instance, dTwin. So we'll take your 3-dimensional model, either native Archicad file format or IFC, and we will then utilize your model within the dTwin environment and build the digital twin. From a space wall point of view, we will take the assets. So if you've modeled your components and your elements in the model correctly with the correct classifications and that, we can build an asset registry incredibly quickly from your data that is there. So from an integration point of view, not much, because you kind of the Archicad side stops when the project gets handed over, unless there's obviously alterations later down the line. All right.
All right. Thanks so much, Nick. I really appreciate you joining us. It was super informative, definitely from my side. I hope everybody else gained some insights from it. Again, use the QR code if you want to reach out to Nick. I'm sure he'd be very happy to have a chat to you.
Definitely.
And yeah, that's it on our side. I'm going to close it here because we've already gone over the hour. I don't want to take up any more of people's time. So Thanks so much for joining, and yeah, see you next month.
Thanks, guys. Cheers. Thanks, Matthew. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Goodbye.